Guys from Apiculus and StorPool, thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. We got that guy to cancel. We used some Bulgarian mafia to get them cancelled. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot of tech talk, so this is tech plus business. So what we are really going to talk about is how do you really build a business in a market where the hyperscalers are there and really create a winning business model. Because after all, when you're in the business of selling cloud, it's all about money, it's all about making profit. And we feel that we have built a very nice solution set which will enable you to go and win business against the hyperscalers. Okay, a bit about us. So I'm the founder CEO of IndiQus, which is now rebranded to Apiculus. With me I have Shitish, who's our Chief Product Officer. There's Alex from StorPool, who's the product lead. And we have Venko, who's the solutions lead from StorPool again. Okay, so a bit about Apiculus. We've been building this product since 2015. It started out as a project for one of the largest telcos in India. Some of you have heard the name Airtel. They're one of the top 20 telcos, I think, in the world. And then we sort of changed it into a product. And we essentially sell it in 3 versions. Version 1 is what we call Cloud Console, where we just sell it as a software. Anybody running CloudStack can go and take this and run it on top of their CloudStack. Then we have something called 360. So this is a very unique offering where we go in and do a build and operate model for all our customers. So we will not just own Apiculus, we'll own the underlying CloudStack, the hypervisor, the storage, monitoring, ticketing, everything. So an end-to-end solution completely managed with an SLA delivered to the customer. So you really don't need to bother about what is going on in your cloud. You will get an SLA and we will run the whole cloud for you. You just take care of selling and take care of L1 support for your customers. Everything else, we take care. And the third one, which is for enterprise customers, I did a talk yesterday about the offboarding or repatriation of enterprises of telcos of hyperscalers. So that's again something we do where we give a complete CloudStack powered cloud to enterprises. A bit about StorPool.
Thank you, Sunando. So a little about StorPool. We provide the foundation for the clouds that IndiQus and Apiculus are building. So that's made up of StorPool Storage. It's the software we've been building for 11 years. It converts customer servers into high-performance, linearly scalable primary storage systems. Then we have StorPool Analytics, another product that we've been developing for the last 6-7 years, which collects hundreds of millions of metrics daily to provide visualizations and deep insights into each StorPool storage system on a per-second basis. Then we have StorPool Alerts and Reporting, converts all the metrics that we collect into per node, per host, per volume, whole system alerts and reports, so we can do have a real insight about what's happening in the infrastructure of a customer. And we have StorPool Volume Care, which provides periodic automatic snapshotting and replication of incremental changes to the local or remote lower storage tiers for backup and DR purposes. And finally, just like that's where a good mix of service comes in. Together with Apiculus, we both provide a managed service. So we take care and offload the storage layer. They take care of the cloud orchestration and the billing and customer workload management layer. So you have a fully managed solution end-to-end that just works.
Okay, so now let's get to the business side of things. What really does it take to beat hyperscalers? I've been running IndiQus now 9+ years, and in this period I've spoken to large telcos, I've spoken to small ISPs, data center operators all over the country, all over the world. Every continent today we have customers and we've got prospects and we speak to these people. So where do they lose out, those smaller providers? These are the 4 key parameters that I have figured out that if they are not done well, the smaller providers will use out to hyperscalers. First is performance. Today, when you go and buy tech, you are generally very vendor-driven. A large vendor will come to you and say, this is my stack, take this, it runs well, I'll give you support. Nobody really goes as a IT buyer in these small companies. They don't really go into an analysis of how the performance will finally turn out, how performant the cloud would be. And if you really want to beat the big guys, you have to beat them first at performance. Scale comes secondary. If somebody really needs scale, they won't come to you. They will go to the big guy. But if you can beat them on performance, a lot of the battles will get won. And that's one of the things we'll demonstrate today, that performance is what we deliver very, very well. And one of the big elements of performance is storage. And using StorPool storage, we deliver at least 2 to 3x better performance than average, let's say, an AWS VM. Second is costs. And we all know that if you look at enterprise clouds, you look at smaller clouds, the first, I won't say the first, but the default choice used to be VMware. But VMware is expensive. Licensing of VMware. I know service providers in India who are paying $500,000 a month as just licensing to VMware. And there are many, many such examples all over the world. So building on CloudStack, building on other open source technologies like KVM and Zabbix and OTRS, these are elements of our stack, and Metabase that we go and deploy. So we're able to cater to every part of the cloud stack, not just Apache Cloud Stack, but the whole stack from the open source domain, and cut out that entire licensing cost for you. And that really enables you to keep your costs low and therefore be very competitive in the market. So just to give you some benchmark figure, most of our customers sell at about 30 to 35% lower than AWS in their nearest region, AWS in their market, and still make a gross margin in excess of 60%. They price it 35% lower and make a gross margin in excess of 60%, all because they're using open source technology end to end. It's one of the big reasons. The third thing is user experience, and this is where a lot of people miss out. You just put up a vanilla portal, or you don't even have a portal. You're just taking orders offline, over email, over chat, or some support window, or using something very basic as WHMCS. And the customer really is looking for a similar or better user experience than what they're getting on the hyperscalers. So you have to make it very simple for them to use, very easy for them to manage everything online. They shouldn't need to call you for anything or email you for anything. Everything, the entire customer's journey should be online, should be on the portal. That will save you money on the support and operations side, and that will make life easy for the customer. But at the same point of time, there are still legacy buyers of cloud who will still want to give you a purchase order, who will still want you to do everything for him, like a white glove service. So you need to also cater for that. So both the user experience, what I call do DIY and DIFM, do it for me. Both the user experiences are important for a small provider and a managed service provider. And that's something that we focus on, and we're going to demo it through our portal today. And of course, simplicity. Keep everything very easy and simple to use. CloudStack anyway does it much simpler than the other stack. And we extend that from CloudStack into our platform on Apiculus and take it from there. So what we're going to present to you today and demo to you today is the stack that we feel is the winning stack for you to go and sell in the market. Apiculus, which is the front-end system, the billing system, the CRM, the customer lifecycle management system. Underneath that, CloudStack. We all been talking about CloudStack last 3 days. And then StorPool as a storage provider, which delivers hyper performance to the end user. Right? With that, I'll hand it over to Shitish.
Thank you. Thanks, Nandu. OK. So before jumping into the demo, I'll just give a brief explainer of how we have set this up. It's a small setup. So in Sofia, we have the StorPool lab, where we have all these things. And we'll be running Apiculus of our lab in India. Right? Yeah. So what we're going to do is like, just to make it, more or less as a workshop, as a demonstration. So we're just going to do some comparisons between what you see on the left and how we can achieve that on this setup, right? So we're going to do this on a 8-core, 16 gig RAM machine with 8 GB of root disk. And then we're going to add a 512 gig data disk on this. And so through this entire flow, you'll be able to see how easy it is to do all these things on Apiculus and how, well, non-AWS the whole thing looks like. Right? Okay. And then after this, I'm going to hand it over to Venko. He's going to be running the benchmark tests and show you how it performs vis-a-vis AWS. Right? Okay. So what you see is, okay, I'm also very happy to announce this is our new and refreshed Apiculus. Super excited to be presenting this for the first time in front of the CloudStack community. We've had a complete rebranding exercise. So we are transitioning from the brand IndiQus to the brand Apiculus, and this is what it's going to look like. Right? Okay. So at a very high level, as an end user, whenever you log in, you can see all the services that are available. And these are all the services that we support. But we're not going to focus on any of these for now. We're going to jump right in and create a VM. Yeah. So yesterday I spoke about how Apiculus can be set to cover multiple availability zones. You can see that again. This setup is currently serving 4 availability zones. 2 are in Delhi, 1 is in Gurgaon back in India, and 1 is in Sofia. Right? Yeah. Okay. So I had these networks created beforehand so that we save a bit on time. Yeah. So as a service provider, you get options to create lots of catalogs. You get options to create product differentiation, pricing differentiation, distribution differentiation. You can set up your own brand. So it's a truly service provider-centric solution from an experience perspective. Right? So I'm calling this the grand offering. I'm just going to select this. I'm going to do a root disk of 8 gigabytes. Yeah. Right. We support both monthly and hourly models. So we're just going to go and create this as a monthly VM. Oops. The demo gods don't like me. Yeah. Yeah. Let's refresh this, yeah. Actually, silly me. I didn't name the VM. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Back to the demo. Yep, this one. Perfect. Yeah. And there are lots of little tidbits like adding discount codes and things like that. Yeah. So this is now going to go and create this VM in the StorPool lab. It's going to take a bit.
Okay, one interesting thing that we have here is that while you're doing everything from the UI, we also support the CloudStack native API, doing exactly the same thing, but going through a proxy which validates and authenticates the user and also checks his account balance. So when a user launches a standard CloudStack API, we've got a proxy in the middle which will first authenticate whether the user is a valid user on Apiculus, and then will also check his AAA record, whether he has the right service balance to go and provision that resource, or whether he has all the permissions to go and provision that resource, and then go and allow him to let that API call go through. So you can run your Terraform standard, CloudStack Terraform playbooks. You can do anything the way you will consume CloudStack through the API, also with Apiculus, and not just use the UI.
Yeah. So the VM is ready. And we'll just go ahead and now add the data disk to this, and then we hand it over to Venko. Just going to the volumes, just create this. Yeah. Yeah. Done. So you can see that everything is extremely simple. All the relevant information is highlighted. From a service provider perspective, there are lots of branding opportunities over here. You can customize practically everything and give a cloud experience to your customers, which is very, very delightful and not at all the jumbles that you see on AWS and Google and things like that. Yeah. There is also a complete account center, as we call it, where you can, so while this is the cloud management center, where you can create resources, you can set up your cloud basically, and then we have an account center where you can manage your billing records, your organization records, your account policies, and everything. Right? So this, and this is where we kind of marry the public cloud aspect, the agile public cloud aspect, and the enterprise aspect. Because depending on, like for every country, there are specific KYC requirements, there are specific taxation requirements, there are so many things which are specific to individual countries, right? And they cannot be generalized at a global level. So this is where all that comes together. And what Sunanda was talking about, the self-service and the do it for me, the admin-assisted stuff. This is where everything converges, and this is the business layer that that Apiculus brings. There is also an admin panel to this where you can manage all these things. You can create catalogs, you can map availability zones, you can create what we call collections. Everything is possible. Everything is possible in a self-service manner using the admin portal, right? Okay, so with that, I invite Venko on stage and hand it over to Venko. Yeah. So we'll just switch the laptops. Yeah. Yeah.
You can give him the
This is also connected.
Venko.
Thanks. Okay, great. So you can see my laptop, you can hear me? Yeah. So let me show again what I will demonstrate today. The setup is, there is a Apiculus portal that controls the Apache CloudStack management. That is, so Apiculus is currently in India. CloudStack controller is in StorPool lab in Sofia, and there is a hyper-converged cloud in our lab in StorPool in Sofia that is made of 3 nodes running KVM hypervisor and StorPool storage. So each of these 3 nodes has epic processors. So this is the very small cloud setup. It will just demonstrate what is possible to be done even with this small, let's say, entry-level cloud. The primary storage is StorPool running on the same 3 nodes. It's built of 12 NVMe drives or 4 drive per nodes. It's a very basic 1 terabyte M2 NVMe drive. Nodes are connected to a redundant 25 gig Ethernet for storage. And all this is controlled, the entire cloud is controlled by CloudStack 471. So this is the setup. And in this demo, I will show you, I will make a comparison with a one offering from AWS. That is this C5 to extra large. That is 8 CPU, 16 gig RAM, root drive of 8 gigabytes, and running Ubuntu 22. Data drive is GP3, 512 gigabyte, 60,000 IOPS. So this is the maximum performance that you can buy from AWS at that price level. So the other option is much more expensive, and this will cost you in, at Amazon only for the drive about $100 per month. So just to comparison, 1 terabyte NVMe is about $100, $170 for the hardware. So you're almost buying the drive every 2 months. So in this demo cloud, we'll build exactly the same VM with the same parameters. The disk will also be, the virtual disk will also be limited to 16,000 IOPS, so we'll make a fair comparison. And we'll see that though all the numbers are the same, you can get very different results. So what we'll show you, I'll run a PGBench. This is a popular benchmark test for PostgreSQL database, and it is as close as possible to the real transactional workload. The active set is 64 gigabyte of data, and we will measure the transaction latency and how many transactions per second these respective virtual machines can achieve. So, one note here, because preparing the database for the test requires something like 20-30 minutes, I prepared this in advance. So this is not the VM that Shitash just created. It is the same parameter on the same cloud, but it was created before that. So on the left-hand side, this is the AWS virtual machine. And on the right-hand side, this is the virtual machine running in our demo cloud. So first, I will run FIO tests to show the actual disk performance as reported by FIO. We will measure the random read performance on the data disk drive with 4K block size and high queue depth. So we'll see how many IOPS we can get from this disk. It's not correct, sorry. This is not the correct test, so let me make sure I'm running the right test. So do you see the numbers here? Do you need me to enlarge the font?
Okay.
Yeah, so the important info is on the very last line. So this is fixed flat at 16,000 IOPS. So I'll run the same test. Here. Yeah, and get exactly the same results because the disks are limited to 16K. So let's run the PGBench test. So I'll run it only for 10 seconds. So this PGBench test simulates, runs the test suite on simulating one client. And we will see how with one concurrent client, how many transactions per second we can get and what will be the latency of the transaction. So here we have the important numbers are, so for 10 seconds, we have average latency about 2.6 milliseconds. This is the latency of the transaction. how much time it takes to complete a transaction, and we have 381 transactions per second. This is on AWS. So the same test on seemingly the same virtual machine with the same parameters. So let's see what will be the result. Yeah, so the latency is 0.8 milliseconds, almost 3 times less, and the transactions per second are 1100. So you can see how big difference you can get, although all the numbers in the offering are the same. So why is this difference? The main is because of the latency of the storage system. So, yeah, I think this was the demo. Yeah, maybe.
Thank you. Rohit. Okay.
Thanks for the demo. It's really encouraging to see this, and also the cost numbers Sunendo gave earlier is amazing. The Amazon VMs will have noisy neighbors. Maybe yours may not have that. So how does the system perform when, let's say, you have a fully packed server with other VMs, and how do the numbers kind of look like?
Thanks for the question. So actually, this is a very valid point. We took a virtual machine from one of our customers. They have something like 2,000-3,000 volumes in this particular environment. So it's very noisy. And you can see that this is a public-facing service Catapult, which is selling at a price that is equivalent to the GP3 with provisioned IOPS that we were just seeing. And you can see that even in this kind of environment where you have a lot of workloads running concurrently, this is just the same test that the demo that Venko showed today. We performed it using the virtual machine that we bought on the portal that Catapult provides. And you can see here that the latency is consistently low as you increase the number of clients for this transactional database. Even when you compare it, Venko kind of hinted at that, but even if you compare it with IO2, which is the fast $1 per gigabyte service that AWS provides, and like 5 times more expensive than what we're comparing to here, it still kind of peaks out at about 4,000, 5,000 transactions per second and quite a bit higher latency. So kind of ignoring everyone that is unfit for databases due to the high latency. We can see that at a fixed load of about 2,000 transactions per second, StorPool storage-based clouds are performing with 2 to 3 times lower latency. And at the maximum load that a database can handle on a standard VM, we have about 2 to 4 times more transactions per second with the same CPU and memory. Thanks for the question.
Any more questions? Same question. Okay. There is one question that's coming online. I'll ask that right now.
Yeah, actually, is there any possibility to define read IOPS or write IOPS ratio kind of things? So because in some environments it would be more read intensive, some environments have write intensive. So is there any possibilities to reserve for read and write ratio?
You mean in the
Storage.
benchmark tool?
Not in benchmark, so in an environment, storage environment.
Yeah, so you have an, okay, so CloudStack has an option to define per volume and per disk offering to define a limit on the IOPS, but this is the aggregate IOPS. And this translates to the IOPS limits per volume in StorPool. So the limit you define are for the total read plus write operations. So for example, if we have here 16,000 IOPS, this can translate to 8,000 plus 8,000 or 10,000 plus 6,000, it doesn't matter. So of course the system has a different performance for read and write, different latency, but IOPS limit is for the total IOPS, just like in the popular cloud offerings.
Okay, thank you. From our online audience, you mentioned there's an Apiculus user and a CloudStack user to authenticate and check limits. Do you synchronize users between both, and if so, how?
Yes, so every CloudStack user is one-to-one mapped to an Apiculus user. They have a unique root key API, and so there's no multi-tenancy. We inherit the multi-tenancy from CloudStack and just replicate that at Apiculus level, and add additional security like 2FA, etc. over there. Any other questions?
No, really great demo. So thanks, guys. That's great to see. So one question, I'm not very familiar with StorPool, so this might be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. At what point do you consider a write durable? Are you committing across all three of your servers to consider it durable before you return the sync back? Or I'm just trying to understand what latency drivers there are for the writes.
I'm not sure I get the question.
Just to make sure that I understood you, you're asking when the write is confirmed. Yeah, so we confirm the write when it's written to a persistent drive 3. So after the third one, the confirmation is sent to the host. Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. So just to summarize, so what we are really promising here. We are promising you a high performance cloud, which is at least 3x faster than AWS. We are promising you that you can be competitive with them, price it even lower than these guys or at par and still make tons of margin, and a complete managed and a great user experience for your end customers. So you get the complete package what you need to go and compete with the hyperscalers in your market. Thank you.